So welcome back, everybody. We're continuing in the Lamed Ches. There's a possibility that today we'll finish the Perek. Let's at least try. So one of the ways is that we need not to repeat too much of the previous class. On the onset, I'll note this, which we note usually towards the beginning of the class. We'll note this on the onset of the class, that to see the chapter, this very chapter, as well as all the other previous chapters, you could all just in the link box put Tanya, and or on the TanyaOnline.com website, which it's a bit more organized. In other words, it's as this particular class, not the website. Not the website is more organized, or if you want to get the understanding of this class, this class is a bit more organized. In other words, it's hosted by the same host, but it's on. It's easy to access all the previous classes, and namely you can follow the class with the text. So it's TanyaOnline, one word, .com. And as well, this particular chapter, the reason I say at the onset that instead of taking much time in recapping and repeating what we learned till now, you can see it in the previous classes, but with a bit we have to just to get into the flow. So first let's find out what we're holding. Just let's point out what we're holding. It's Nun Aleph in the original text, Nun Aleph, and it's the Nechlekes Gamkin La'arba Madreges, which is about a third off the top of the page. That it's divided also into 4 levels, the literal translation. And what 4 levels? So if you recall, this is all based on what the Alter Rebbe says, and that davening or Kriya Shema or saying a bracha without kavana, without the proper intent, without thought, without mind, without heart, without soul, it's like a guf neshama, like a body without a soul. And Alter Rebbe in the previous classes, in the beginning of this chapter, toward the first part of the chapter, or namely, this is what the chapter is all about, elaborates on this precise term which the Chazal used, ki guf b'le neshama. What is the priority of the neshama over guf? On the surface, obviously, we see neshama is all about life. The guf, it receives life. And the guf is on its own. Obviously, every guf, every body, especially the body of the human being, is very sophisticated, and as such, it has on itself something very special, some chayis, some energy in its own. But the nefesh is all about life. It brings function to the guf. But Alter Rebbe dissects this and deciphers this Maimed Azal to guf and neshama, and points out exactly that ultimately the guf and the neshama both crossover, or both have a shaykhus to klipas nega, which means it's devoid, because it's part of this olam. It's by definition before the Aveda, pre-Aveda of the Yid, it's devoid of Elokus, it doesn't demonstrate Elokus. But yet, there's a great difference between the guf and the neshama. The nefesh, rather. We're not dealing with the nefesh Elikis, the godly nefesh. The nefesh, which is machai, which brings function to the body, has much more energy. In other words, from where the Sheidish Shemokha, the source, the root of energy, which ultimately creates everything, including this Elam Hazeh, there's ultimately more energy trickling and coming in from on high, which ultimately creates a nefesh to what ultimately creates a guf, a body. And this is the preciseness, a similarity of davening, saying Krishma, saying a bracha without kavana, as opposed to saying it with kavana, with a proper intention. Now, if you remember, the Alter Rebbe also pointed out that we find this difference also in the way the elements, in the different elements which comprise Elam Hazeh. This world there's the 4 elements ultimately in this very physical world. There's Daimim, Semech, Chai, Medaber, which is the inanimate, like stone, water, and so on. And then there's the botanical world of vegetation, Sameach, you see life, you see it grows. And then you have, but nonetheless, they don't move from one place to the other. Then you have a chai, the animal world, which not only they grow mikatnos legadnos, from small to big, but also they move from place to place, and their whole they have the many different and multiple functions. And again, the difference is very stark, and the contrast between the chai and the tzemeach is very grand. The difference between them, rather, is very grand. Then you have the Medaber. The Medaber is something which is beyond both of them. He has the ability to think, intellectualize, speak, and which you don't have naturally by animal. So the Alter Rebbe says, he points out that even this, which is ultimately the byproduct of the great Tzimtzum, the great contraction of the Ein Sof HaBilti Balbol, the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which gives the ability, as a result of this Tzimtzum, to create a finite world. So every part of Elam Haza is a consequence, is a product of this great Tzimtzum, is a consequence to this great Tzimtzum. It's a result, it's a derivative of this contraction, condensement, concealment of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Eha Bilti Bal Gvul, and that's where we can have a physical world, a world which is a finite world. In other words, the rules of Elam Haz is just the opposite, the antithesis, the way we would think and we can appreciate defining Elokus. I mean, it's just beyond definition. The way we understand that the Eibishter Hashem is Bligvul, is limitless, and just that term, the Elam Haz, is all about limitation, the finitude, the finite, and so on. And that's because of, again, it's all a result of the great Tzimtzum. So even this, which comes as a result of the great Tzimtzum, or the many Tzimtzumim, namely the grand Tzimtzum which creates this physical Elam Haz, there are differences. There's the Daimim, which you see clearly, even though there's a lot of Chayis, which is vitalizing the stone, not in the past, which is the energy which created the stone in past tense, but there's a constant chayis, an energy which is constantly creating the stone. Again, we explain this in length in these past classes. Your dibur is kayom la'ad, like it says, the famous, again, a pasuk which says that your words nitzav, they're now standing b'shamayim, which means, as the Baal Shem Tov explains it, the energy which HaKadosh Baruch Hu uses to create Elam Haz is not he just infused that energy and created Elam Haz and ultimately infused that energy in Elam Haz, and that's what it is. That's where it stays, and that's where it's at. 6,000 years, so many years ago. But Hashem is constantly creating, but nonetheless, and therefore there's energy in the stone. And if the energy would, because we'll pull back that energy from the stone would cease to exist, literally disappear. So there is energy, and a lot of energy in the stone, which allows it to exist. But you can't compare the energy of the stone to the energy of the tree, the bush, especially the producing tree. The tree produces fruits, the botanical world, and then you cannot compare that to the world of Chai. You cannot compare that to the energy which comes to the Medaber, which as a result of that, because it's a grander energy which is not that affected by the Tzimtzum. And it was affected the fact that it created a world which needs Aveda, needs toil to reveal the Emes Hashem Elam. It needs toil to reveal this Emes Hashem, yet before there, it's obscure. The Chayis is obscure, and it comes through the Levush of Klipas Nega, like we spoke in the past. But yet, the fact that this is resulted in the creation, you see the creation of man, of the human being, you understand that there's still much more Chayis coming through this Tzimtzum, and therefore created the human being as opposed to the Chay, even the Tzemeach, and how much more so that stark contrast, the stark difference between the Medaber and the other extreme, the Daimon. They're both products of Elam Haz, but how could you compare? So Dr. Rebbe says that in Aveda, and again, Dr. Rebbe points out, as it's brought in a number of places, corresponds to the 4 aces of Shem Hashem, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu Dvar Hashem, the Hashem Dvar Chonitz B'Shamayim, it's the Yud Kei Vav Kei, and that's why it's divided into 4. But Dr. Rebbe brings out in Avedas Hashem as well. You have these 4 levels, 4 expressions, which correspond to the Daimon Tzemechai Medaber. So even though Dr. Rebbe was speaking about, the Maimon Azal speaks about prayer or Kriyat Shema, saying a bracha, Keguf B'lei Neshama, if you don't say with Kavanah, as opposed to you do say with Kavanah, there is the Nefesh, which the Nefesh is Be'ein Arech to the Guf. The energy of the Nefesh is no comparison and infinitely grander, in other words, infinitely more more chayes, more energy than the guf. But then the Alter Rebbe points out as well, you find this idea, the same notion you find when you're dealing with the Daimon Tzemei Chai Medaber. And then Alter Rebbe right away introduces that, the Avodas Hashem, there's the 4 levels. And this is where we're holding. In the Chalekes Gamkin, it's divided into 4 levels. Kikufa mitzvahs, atzmon. You think about them, where do we find these 4 elements in our Avodas Hashem, or the way they correspond to in Yoniv mitzvahs? You think about a mitzvah itself. When we think about a mitzvah, so the gufa mitzvah, there's the, for example, eating matzah, putting on tefillin or so on. You have the gufa mitzvah itself. You have and then you have more, which that would be similar to the daimon, just do it, which as we explained a number of times, that's what a mitzvah is all about. Hashem, you say, I do, I understand, I don't understand. It's irrelevant. You say, eat those crackers on Bezel night, that's the way you're connected to me. I'm the mitzvah mitzvahs, this is the mitzvah, this is the command. I'm the commandee, you're the commander. I will eat them, I will connect to you. But you see that the kiyum, the fulfillment of the mitzvah, is there's no, in order to fulfill, the makeup of the kima mitzvah is about just doing it, which you find that dryness, if you will. Obviously, you can learn about the mitzvah, but if you're dealing and then understand what the meaning of the mitzvah is, but if you're talking about the performance of the mitzvah, that would be very similar to daimon. It just is. The stone is. There's no chayis. You don't see any life. Obviously, there's a lot of life and energy. And namely, we deal with a mitzvah. It's Hashem's mitzvah. Mitzvah Isai. It's part of Hashem. This we connect to Kol Yevarim, the Malka, the limbs of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the way we connect to the Etzem of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we spoke. It's the Rotz in Hashem. It's the highest level. But the performance of the mitzvah would be very similar to daimon. Then you have mitzvahs which you see that there is more of the more rich type of mitzvahs. So you say rich type of mitzvahs means you see more of the vitality within them. Take, for example, Talmud Torah, Kriyas Shema, prayer, Birchas Hamazon, and other brachas. Because there it's not just about just do it, but there it's about the passion, the understanding, especially when it comes to Limud HaTorah, the understanding, the appreciation. That's already about growth. Feeling is something which grows, fluctuates, or rather it extends itself. If feelings fluctuate, it means to say feelings are about expansion, which this is what the way we have to fulfill the mitzvah of saying Krishma, elaboration, not only saying the words, but elaborating, explaining to myself, pondering, meditating on Hashem Echad, growth. The same too with prayer. Birchas Hamazon, like it's brought in halacha, and the other brachas, like it's brought in halacha. A person says a bracha, it's not borrowed, just lip service. He has to have a lot of kavanah. Say it clear, and a lot of kavanah. This is already about smicha, growth, not only just doing it, but more than that. So this is what he says in the Chalekes Gamkin, Arba Madregas is divided also into 4 madregas. Kigufa mitzvah atzmon, there's 2 madregas, there's 2 levels, which is again the daimon and the tzemeach. And then again, you have the mitzvah tluis b'dibur, also not only the meaning and the heart, and which and the focus of the mind and soul, which comes along as part and parcel of the mitzvah of learning Torah, or davening, or Kriyas Shema, or saying a bracha, or Birchas Hamazon, but also we do it with our speech in comparison to Maisa. That would be very much Someach as opposed to Doming, because Maisa is just do it, like the daimon. You don't see as much life in mice as opposed to speech. Speech is with the conduit through which a person is able to express his feelings, his intellect, and therefore speech itself expands based on how much the person puts his heart and mind into his words. Nafshe yotze bedabre, it's a soul expression. That is tantamount to the idea of tzomech. It's not just is, it grows, it blossoms, it produces, and so on. It produces fruit and so on. Nor namely the growth, the expansion, and that is the mitzvah tluis b'dibur, mitzvahs which are dependent in speech, machshava, in thought, where there you certainly see more growth and expansion, like Talmud Torah, Kriyas Shema, learning Torah, reciting the Shema, praying, Birchas Hamazon, which is benching the blessings after we eat, those the after meal blessings, brachas and other brachas, which we usually do before we eat, and again in Hilchos Brachas, the many brachas which we recite not only in the context of eating, smelling, and getting good odors, good fragrance, and good fragrance, that is, or other times, other brachas which we recite. Davening, we say the brachas of the morning. There it's about dibur, speech, and again machshava, thought, again similar to the Sameach. Then you have the Chayim Medaber. Where is the Chayim Medaber in Avodas Hashem? Apparently we crossed all the mitzvahs, because there's the Maisa and the Dibur. Where else do you find? What other mitzvahs do you find? Talmud Torah, Kisiyas HaMitzvahs, and Birchas HaMazon, and Tefillin, Krishma, and so on. So where is the other, the Chayim Medaber, within our Avodas Hashem? So here the Alter Rebbe goes on and says, this is where we introduced the idea of Kavanah. Kavanah, the intention, the intent in the mitzvah, that is the dveikus, that is or rather that dveikus, the kavodas hamitzvahs l'davka be'izbarach, to cleave to Hashem. There you find the two elements of Chai and Medaber. And where is the two elements of Chai and Medaber? What are the two levels in Avodas Hashem? Rather, in kavanas hamitzvahs, in the kavana l'davka be'izbarach. So he says that, I'll try to say it orally, that there's something within the Yid that his service to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there is a lot of kavanah in everything he does. He does a mitzvah with kavanah, with intention, with mind, heart, and soul. Namely, he davens, when he says Kriyashma, benches, when he learns Torah, but yet it's similar to a chai. What does it mean similar to a chai? A chai, and that, take it for example, an animal that there is a lot of feeling an animal has. There's a lot of it's very expressional, actually. It's able to express itself in multiple ways, but yet its expression, its feelings, is not based on intellect. For example, even this which it stays away from evil. It sees fire, it would stay away from fire, for example. This is all instinctive by the animal. It'll stay away from this which it would feel threatened by, or he knows that this would damage, for example, a fire, it would stay away. So it's staying away. It's not something that is just robotically stays away from fire, as an example, or anything else which it feels threatens or would damage it. But it has this, no, that place I won't go. But, and again, because it has that intuition, and it has that feeling of fear, yira, ava, which means I'm staying away from something which I feel could be damaging. So it's not just like something which is programmed. You find a certain sense of feeling, but the feelings are instinctive, meaning to say that it's not something which it stops and thinks that this is probably, knows the nature of fire and intellectualized, and that this could be damaging for me, and therefore let me stay away from it. It's just, there's no intellect in the world of the animal. And it knows where to go, it knows where its barn is, it knows where its master. But you're talking about real intellect, it doesn't have. So feelings it does, and it expresses itself with its feelings, but the feelings are more instinctive and based or produced or consequence to a structured intellectual pattern and intellectual development, which would lead to its feelings, ava, v'yira, love, fear, meaning to say something which is drawn to in the context of ava, something which you want to stay away from, which would be in the context of yira. It doesn't have, it's not, we know that midas are totally Chabad, that Alter Rebbe explained in this third chapter, and we explained it then a little bit more barichas length, which is easy, by the way. You can look at TanyaOnline.com to the beginning of, in the same website, just go to the beginning of chapter 3, you can scroll on the bar, find chapter 3 within a few seconds, and you can follow then the class with the text. You see, but it really needs not much explanation that feelings are a product of intellect. You understand that that's good and that's going to contribute to your comfort. Again, even without thinking of this or appreciating this on a spiritual realm, this system or this computer or whatever it is something that would do good for me, and the more you understand the details of it, the more you're drawn to it, because midas are a telvis of Chabad, a feeling, is a clear production of Chabad, meaning to say of is the way I perceive something, the way I understand it, the way I appreciate it. So if I appreciate something, I have a thorough knowledge of something, and that is something good for me, so I'm drawn to it. I understand, I intellectualize in a particular product, a particular situation, a state, or image, or whatever it is that I understand. My mind explains to me that it is no good for me. I will consequently, this will consequently develop a feeling of yira, a fear of it. I want to stay away. I can't get too close to it for whatever reason. Sometimes fear is in the context of reverence, especially when dealing with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I ponder on the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's one dimension which produces ava, one set of appreciation and perception of Elokus which draws my attention to Elokus, wanting extracting for myself a interest, a drive to be Davik B'Elokus, love to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and there's the understanding of the Eibush, there's a Melech, and watch out, this is Kodesh Kodashim, and that would extract from myself Yira, fear. But there the fear is more about reverence to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we understand, again, you could see there in a number of places, but it makes so much sense. Midas are the feelings, attributes are a clear production of my intellect, of my Chabad. The more I understand something thoroughly, the more my midas are produced and are ignited and come into function accordingly. Now, we understand that midas, which are production of my thorough and comprehensive understanding of anything, and in this case of the lukus, of godliness, but even let's take it as before we introduce this without ever saying here, when it comes to lukus, we understand that midas which are produced by a structured process and pattern of intellect are much more qualitative. I understood it, I appreciated it, and then that midah which is produced, which is consequent, comes as a result, as a derivative of that structured haskalah, that structured understanding and appreciation of a matter, that's a qualitative midah. In any midah, maybe ava, yira, chesed, gvura, tiferes, netzach, yisei, malchus, and so on, which are the 7 midas. As opposed to when it just comes instinctive, it's a midah. But yet, there's no comparison. And that's the difference of man and animal. Animal also has feelings, but yet the feelings are based on instinct. It doesn't go around the fire because it can appreciate. It follows its intuition. It's intuitive to the animal. The animal's intuitive to the fact that this is damaging. Let me stay away from it. Something is good, I want to eat it, I want to indulge in something which contributes to my comfort. The animal is all there and is drawn to it, and it connects to it. Because it has this, but again, it didn't stop and think, how could this contribute to my comfort? No, it's instinctive. And the same thing as opposed to man. Man does something with seichel, therefore man's midas are much more qualitative than the midas of an animal. And this is what the points out over here, that the Chayim Medaber and Avedus Hashem is that we're doing what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants with Kavanah, because we said the Kavanah, that's the Chayim Medaber. We're doing it with a Kavanah, with Dov Kobeis Baruch to cleave to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not just to do the mitzvah, but I understand this connects me to my Creator. And again, whatever Dveikis in HaKadosh Baruch Hu means, what it truly means, and its grandness, its greatness. But there's a difference if I cleave to HaKadosh Baruch Hu because instinctively, meaning to say because I have Alam Soteres, I have a hidden love to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like the Alter Rebbe explains in chapter 18. Again, you could easily go ahead and look at just click the chapter 18. It's actually towards the beginning of chapter 18. You could follow along with the text where the Alter Rebbe introduces the Alam Soteres, the innate, inherent love every Yid has. Not a love which is produced by a structured intellect, in my appreciation and my comprehension and elokus of the reality of God, but this is something which is inherent within me, exists within every single Yid. So there's the Yid which serves HaKadosh Baruch Hu with Ava, L'Dov Kobeis Baruch to cleave to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but this is but it's instinctive. It means to say he didn't do anything. He didn't think much about the elokus which exists if it's in association with that mitzvah, the meaning, or generally he doesn't have such a comprehensive understanding of Elokus, which would be similar to the Medaber. No, but he's like a chai, takalik dafka beis baruch to kliv takadosh baruch Hu, but yet it's more the Ava Musateres, that innate love which he has to Kodesh Baruch Hu. And similarly, he stays away from Aleisaseh, what Hashem says not to do, similar to the animal which would stay away from fire. Yes, it can appreciate, but the appreciation, the yira, the fear it has not to come close to fire, anything which would damage it, it's there, it's very vibrant. Right? The animal's not, again, it's not programmed as a robot. It's very vibrant. No, I will not. You look at the animal, it'll stay away. You see its fear. You can even see it evidently and overtly. Its fear when it would come to fire, that it would stay away from it. But you can't say the animal became big chacham and understanding what fire is all about and why it's so damaging. And that's why it produced that fear, and that's why it stays away from fire. No, it's all instinctive. And similarly, we have it in the Yid that, yes, he fears, he has true yira, and he stays away from fire, meaning to say from any avera, may it be a deiraisa, derabon, or even kikutza shel yud, the smallest avera, because he knows this will disconnect it from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Oh no, I cannot go there. So there is a feeling of fear. This is about feeling emotions and so on, and therefore, yes, it is a qualitative type of aveda. But yet it's nonetheless based on my instinct, meaning to say the Ava Mesuteres, my inherent love, my innate rather fear to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, my inherent fear to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not a fear, it's not a polished qualitative fear which came as a result of my intellect, of my intellectual investment in Elokus, in the reality of God. And that is the Avodah of the Medaber. That is the highest level of Avodas Hashem. That person is serving the Kodesh Baruch Hu, but, and again with Ava V'Yira, but Ava V'Yira, not only, again, it doesn't mean that he loses his Ava Mesuteres. No, they've been hidden, and innate love that Rebbe deals with in the beginning of chapter Yudches, which we just mentioned, which is also special to him. He doesn't lose it, but additional to that, he has a clear avo, because he's able to intellectualize in the reality of Kodesh Baruch Hu, take the time and profoundly decipher the meanings, the elukus behind every mitzvah, or b'chlal, that these constant, these beinenus on the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which Al Rebbe already introduces to us quite a few, or rather it deals with it quite a few times in the chapter in the Sefer HaTanya, which is again Chassidus Chabad, the ability or the essentiality of constantly being mizbeinen with Chochmah Bina Das on the reality of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In the beginning, Al Rebbe introduces it. Again, this chapter 3, we're about a third into the chapter, this, Segma Malakalam, Segma Kalam, Kulakalam, which again, if I recall right, we took the time to explain again these important fundamental terms, Chassidus, and namely in which are different types of these Hidbonuniyot, appreciating, understanding of the reality of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he takes the time, and he concentrates, and he's mizbeinen, not necessarily mizbeidedus, but he's mizbeinen. He is davening, he takes a few moments, and he understands, he learns about Elokus before, let's say, prayer, and he takes the time to think and to ponder and to develop this which he thought is something real and as it relates to him and it's pertinent to him, and then he starts davening Haidul Hashem Kiru Vishmai and all the other important psukim of davening, which ignites his heart in Avad La'alev as HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to love HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Yira, fear, and namely when it comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, reverence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's an Avad Yira which is produced from a structured Chochmah Bina Das, a structured Izbeinanus, a structured intellectual investment in the reality of God. So this is not only Stam L'Dovka Beis Baruch to Klip HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but this is about L'Dovka Beis with the polished and Midas, which are a result, attributes which are clear consequence or clear result of the Chochmah Bina Das, the intellect, the intellectual investment this Yid has in his Avodas Hashem, which is similar to the Medaber. This is the Meiser Ha'adam Min HaBehema, that he has seichel. He has the ability to intellectualize, the ability to profoundly appreciate any matter in life. That's what the Medaber is all about. He doesn't just work on instincts. A person is essentially intellectual. A human being is created that the Chochmah ought to run the system. That's why he's a medaber. Obviously, he can do differently. People can act like a behemoth without structured chachma bin das in every matter in life. But that's what the medaber is all about. So this dveikis is more a qualitative dveikis. And this is what the Alter Rebbe, let's try to see it in the text. Kabbalah mitzvahs l'davka b'yizbarach. The kabbalah, the mitzvah to klip takadosh baruch Hu, which is kineshama l'guf. This becomes the neshama, the soul to the body, again, based on the Maimer Azal. Chlek is gam kineshte madrigas is also divided into two levels. Kineshte madrigas and neshama, like the two levels of the neshama, shebeguf hachumri, which ultimately invests in the physical bodies of the animal and the human being. This Alter Rebbe actually starts in the medaber. When we did this orally, we started with the chai and then we went on the medaber. Not to the maila. But Alter Rebbe right away begins with the medaber. Because Misha daita yofa. He has a beautiful mind, meaning to say, it's a literal translation, meaning to say that he has a good das, meaning he's able to thoroughly dissect and decipher and decode these inyanim which are presented to us in Teiras Emes, Pnimius HaTeira, of Elokus, of Hashem, lo das as Hashem, to know HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How do we know that this is available to us? Like the Teira itself says, V'yodaita hayem. Hashem doesn't only tell us to do the mitzvahs, he says he wants us to know him. So if he wants us to know him, obviously Hashem will never ask us something which is not attainable to us. So there is attainable to us. And this person has a daita yaf, an appropriate das, to know HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And to ponder the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Maybe and to produce from his understanding. Again, as we said, midas are a consequence. Midas are tildes Chabad. They are a production of the Chabad. And again, any midah in every area of life, like we just explained. So in this case, he's mizbein and he ponders in the greatness of God Baruch, and he produces from his understanding a yirei lo b'meichei, a supreme fear and reverence in his mind, and ultimately becomes manifest in his heart. And the love to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the right side of his heart. It's interesting when it comes to Yira, because it's Yirei Lo, it's the supreme Yira, it's associated with Me'ach. It's explained in a number of places, Kabbalah. We'll see this. No, let's not get into it now. Namely, he produces a supreme qualitative Yira, fear, reverence, and the Avas Hashem, the love to HaKadosh Baruch Hu on the right side of his heart. Where the Nefesh Elikis is stationed, again, as we looked at in the chapter Tes, where the station of the Nefesh Elikis is. The Nefesh Elikis is primary station, my primary place within the human being is in his Mayach. As we said, the Nefesh Elikis is essentially intellectual. It's primarily intellectual. It wants the person should lead a life based on intellect, not based on instinct. So, but nonetheless, as you remember that we said it has a satellite station in the heart. It namely starts with the Meichei, but it has this station in the heart, which is the Chalayimali, the right side of the heart, meaning to say that the Nefesh Elikis expresses itself with the Ava, with the love to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but again, as this Ava is a production of his, these Beinas and the Gadlus Hashem, of his intellectual investment in the reality of Hashem, of God, and that arouses again this love. And how does this love express itself? That it has a thirst, to cleave to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it knows the only way it could cleave to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is through the learning Torah and fulfillment of Hashem mitzvahs, and that becomes the neshama of the guf. That is the kavanah of the guf hamitzvah. So when he learns Torah, he knows that that's the way he cleaves and he connects to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why is he he's connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? In other words, that dveikis to HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes as a result of his simayin HaKadosh Baruch Hu, his thirst to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He has a gashmis because thirst. He has an actual thirst to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. His heart is on fire. It wants to cleave and it loves. It has an important, the passionate experience, a passionate, fervorous love to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore it's tzameh to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that ava to HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes because he was mizbein, and he took the time and he took the opportunities given to him to be mizbein and be in the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what is produced is a qualitative ava, then a tangible ava, an ava which is actually tzameh to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and wants to be David HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and knows that is again through learning Torah and Kima mitzvahs, mitzvahs, so I take kimateva mitzvahs, which is amshachas v'adasei tzabarach al nafshe, and he understands, and that's what kimateva mitzvahs is. It's mamshich, and it draws the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu on his nefesh, that he's able to actually connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. With his kavanah he learns Torah, and with his kavanah he does a mitzvah, and so too with his kavanah he davens and he makes a bracha. This kavanah is of derech mashal k'minishmas medaber. It's not the neshama of an animal. Again, not animal in the negative way to that animal. Means to say it doesn't express his avaviyah. It's not just instinctive, but it's a structured, polished avaviyah. And this is, again, it's similar to the neshama of the medaber, because what is the superiority? What is the advantage of the medaber? That the medaber is a bal seichel ubchira. Now, medaber is all about intellect. Meiser ha'adam min ha'behema is about his intellect and his speech, which again we understand and we can appreciate his speech is also related to chokhmah and seichel. That is the medaber. Ubedas yedaber. A medaber, a human being, speaks with knowledge, and everything about him is about seichel. Again, the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the human being. And in this case, his avodas Hashem is in the same way. He's davik like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He cleaves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with ava v'yira, structured ava v'yira, which comes directly consequent to his structured intellectual investment in elokus, in being mizbeinen in the Gadlus Hashem, based on the Adaita Hayim, a very structured Yidiyas Hashem, and that's why it's similar to the Medaber. Then Dr. Rebbe is going to go on. Lamentably, we can't finish the Pedic today. We're going to try to finish it next week, wishful thinking, right? But we're going to finish it next week. Now, Dr. Rebbe is going to say that there is another type of kavanah, that true, it's about ava, true, it's about yira. He's not stam doing the mitzvah, not stam benching and davening in St. Krishma just with his lips, which is again the main way we keep Mekayim the mitzvah based on what it says in the very beginning of Lamed Ches. That is about doing the mitzvah ma'isa, it is about doing the mitzvah b'dibur, with speech, but nonetheless it's kiguf b'lei neshama, even though that's the tachas hakavana. Just to recap what he says in the beginning, as it comes as a follow-up of Lamed Vav and Lamed Zayin, the 36th and 37th chapter. So that it's about doing it because this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did in this very physical world via the most inferior parts of ourselves, which is action and speech. That's where we're kind of mitzvah. But yet there is the guf. That's only the guf of the mitzvah. In other words, he's doing it ki guf. B'lei neshama. The Eibishter wants us to do it with the neshama. But within the level of the neshama, there is the bal chai as well. In other words, he's not stop doing the mitzvah, stop benching and davening and saying Krishma, but he does it with soul. But it's the soul of medaber. It's the soul of bal chai, which the bal chai also has much soul. Look at the animal. There's a lot of soul, but the soul is not based on any intellect because it has no structured intellect. That's what Meiser ha'adam min ha'behema is. The behema doesn't have that. It's not bedash yidaber, no dibur and no das. See, it's missing both. It's missing speech and intellect, which again they're interconnected as we know. And therefore it has ava, it has yira, but it's more the natural, it's the instinctive ava, the instinctive yira. And Avodas Hashem, as Dr. Rebbe is going to explain, it is ava, there is neshama, there is soul, there's like the soul of a bal chai, which it's avas Hashem, it's instinctive, and yiras Hashem is instinctive, and so to all the other midas. So there's a lot of soul, but it's not the soul of a medaber. It's not based on any intellect. Have a wonderful evening.